UFO Roundtable. The UFO Thinker and Pursuit of the Paranormal Podcasts.
Welcome to this month's UAP Roundtable. We are actually a little bit late releasing this one due to reasons beyond our control. However, we are here now. And since the last Roundtable, which was devoted pretty much exclusively to David Grusch's testimony to Congress, it's been a bit of a drop-off. It has got a bit quiet the past month or so, but we have got a few things to talk about. It would have been hard to follow last month anyway. But we are joined as normal by my podcast co-host Greg. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well. As always, the infallible Dave Smethurst is with us too.
Oh, I like the infallible bit. I don't think it's true, but I'll go with that. Yeah, hello. I'm glad to be here. And I think we're a bit late, but we managed to, there's a bit more news happened, so that was quite good.
For sure. And to help us understand this murky state of affairs, we've also recruited one half of the Mechanism podcast. Joining us for the first time on the roundtable, I believe, is Davey Johnston. Thanks, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed, thanks. And thank you very much for inviting me on this. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, or my crime-fighting partner, whichever way around it is unable to join us, although he might, if we're really lucky, pop in later. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. You may hear his voice pop up later.
He's got some child wrangling duties to go to, hasn't he?
Yeah, I feel that pain.
So, like I say, not going to be as exciting as last month, but there is some interesting things emerging. Well, we got you with us, so we can't really discuss last month. Greg wasn't with us last month.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so some things have emerged last couple of weeks in terms of possible fight back from the forces in the US who do not want to see disclosure or more transparency or political manoeuvrings linked to this. So, we mentioned Dave Grusch, and obviously last month, like I say, we had a big episode about the hearings and everything that he was saying coming forward with. And there has been backlash in August, which was basically born from an article from the Inset magazine from the ironically named Ken Kippenstein, who had alleged Grusch had drinking issues, had suicidal ideation, and was institutionalized temporarily. Grusch himself admitted this and said it was combat PTSD related, and he was happy to talk about it. UFO Twitter, UFO X, and others were rightly outraged at what was thought to be a deliberate attempt to smear David Grusch, who is, obviously, as we know, a veteran. And Klippenstein said that he got the information from a Freedom of Information request, but that intelligence community members had told him where to look. So, obviously, there's a big outroar sort of afterwards, after all this happened. So, what do you make of this, and has this damaged Grusch's reputation in your eyes? Dave, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Yes, very good. That, I mean, I think, there was lots of outrage on this. I mean, it was pretty obvious what was going on. There was lots of outrage from Ross, from Jeremy Corbell. I thought Corbell was a bit over the top, to be honest with you. He seems to have been a bit over the top since his hearings appearance, to be honest with you. So I think he could just dial it down a notch, because I, unlike maybe some others, quite have a lot of time for Jeremy Corbell, but I think he's a little bit over the top. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I think it was sort of seen as, and more so a lot of the mainstream politicians were as well pretty outraged because of this big, rightly in America, this combat thing, you know, attacking a veteran, PTSD, all the rest of it. So it's seen as a real obvious smear on a veteran, you know. Now, I thought Grusch handled it really well. He was open. He told everybody about it. He told people about it beforehand. And he said he wanted to discuss it to help other people, you know, model sort of response. Then a few people said it was a direct IC leak. Now, Klippenstein came up, what a name, nice. I just think it's like a joke name, you know, clipping things up and, you know, and he's a monster, you know. But anyway. He tried to say at first he found it on the Freedom of Information, but this sort of collapsed because then he went on this Twitter space, if you remember, with Greenwald, who was going to hold it up as some great attack against Grusch. He said, "Oh yeah, well the intelligence community actually told me where to look and all the rest of it." So he was just clearly a stitch up, so they tipped him off. So there was clear evidence of dirty tricks, no action taken as usual. Klippenstein was just a buffoon, really. He's a gutter journalist. And also, The Intercept, he said his motivation was because he disbelieved in the UAP story as well. I mean, what's that all about? Is he a journalist? What is he, or a comedian? He sort of, he said he liked to troll people. He then made up he'd been sacked and then laughed at everybody because they fell for his thing. Because he's a journalist, you would try and believe him, wouldn't you? So anyway, I think having him, and he was really humiliated if you watch him on the Breaking Points podcast with a proper political interview. You just come away looking like the silly little child he is, really. So, I mean, I think it shows a desperation of non-disclosure forces because they're finding it hard to discredit Grusch. And I think using somebody like him, because he's so verified by the ICIG stuff and all the rest of it, they can't really lay a glove on him. So you're taking this scattergun approach and seeing what fits. And I think it's a clear reaction to the hearings. They're definitely trying to derail the sort of disclosure train. There's a few other articles come out on peripheral things. They didn't stick either. It's weak pieces from the Washington Post and they're saying, where's the evidence when there is? Clearly, they didn't bother to look. So I think it's sort of backfired in the end. With key opinion formers have sort of said, well, we don't believe this, and they've sort of got behind Grusch. So I think it's massively backfired. But what I would say is, it has got the message out in some people's eyes that he's a drunk, he's got mental health issues, and, he's gullible, disgracefully said because of his autism. He has got that message out on some level, but I don't think the people who it matters, it's really gone for. So that's my view. I think it was the weaker aspects of the fight back, the Grusch going. It was pretty low blow.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, the when they say try to claim it was late, but then Klippenstein said that basically someone had told him the dates and the sort of the area he had to put these requests into to get this information. All very very underhand. Definitely for sure. Davey, let's come over to you.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of overreaction from what I would call the UAP supporting side of this. So Ross Coulthart was very quick to say that this was a deliberate attempt to leak his medical records, which due to HIPAA regulations in the US have to be kept confidential. Turned out that wasn't the case and that this had come through a Freedom of Information Act from the local sheriff. Coulthart then tried to walk that back a bit and say, oh, well, we spoke to the sheriff. The sheriff said there'd been no Freedom of Information Act request when in fact there had. And it just made me think very much of one of the things that Ross Coulthart is big on saying is assume a cock-up before a conspiracy. And he failed to listen to his own words in that instance. Because there are certainly, as Dave has said there is intelligence community at play and at work here in terms of directing Klippenstein to where to get that information. I also think that this is undoubtedly a smear by the IC, the intelligence community, but I think it's probably going to backfire. I think that what they have miscalculated is the world that we currently live in, where mental health and mental health illnesses and challenges are the norm. They are open. People are able to talk about them. I live with depression and anxiety. I am probably too frank and open about that, but I will talk to anybody about it because for me, it's about breaking down the stigma of mental health. And I see a parallel there between the UAP topic as well, that people are trying to stigmatise. And it's easier if we talk about it, we shine the light on it, we bring it out into the open. One of the other areas that I'm involved in this topic is I'm a member of the UAP Medical Coalition, where we seek to provide support to medical professionals so that they can help people understand the UAP issues and not just the UAP, but other things around it as well. So, yeah, I think that this smells of people of a certain generation, let's say, who think that a really easy way to discredit somebody is to say they're a bit loopy, when in fact 7% of US vets suffer from PTSD. So it's incredibly common, perfectly normal. My view on this was they'll probably say next, he once smoked some weed and he inhaled. They've totally misread the temperature, or they're playing to a different audience. And as Dave said, I think that it is an attempt to derail this. It's an attempt to scare off other whistleblowers. But we've heard rumours in the last week or so that there have been people who have bypassed Arrow and Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and have filed what they call a PPD 19, which is a whistleblower act similar to Grusch. So I think it's probably has unnerved some people, but there's still people who are going forward with this and trying to, again, shine the light on this as well. I also had the good fortune the other week of meeting, along with Ash, at the Awakening Festival event in Manchester. I also had the good fortune of chatting with James Fox, a film producer who was incredibly excited to leave Manchester and get back to the US, not just because of the torrential downpour and the rain that we had, but because he's got 2 or 3 whistleblowers lined up waiting to talk to him when he gets back to the US. So yeah, definite attempt to derail it. I don't think it's enough.
Brill, yeah, nice to meet. Well, see you again, because we have met previously. But yeah, good stuff, Greg.
So yeah, like has just been said, I think going for someone's mental health based on the fact that he's a veteran and has been in a war theatre, I think it's an easy shot. But like you just said, Davey, that I think they've massively miscalculated that. I think coming up to the congressional hearings, and then we heard it was going to be Dave Grusch, Dave Fravor, and Ron Graves. Everybody was a bit like, oh, I don't know, it's not really anybody new. We've heard it all before. Then those 3 step up and do the business, essentially. And Dave Grusch comes out like a bit of a hero, certainly to like the UAP community. So I think anybody who's going to go after him is going to struggle. And if the worst thing they can do is say, oh, he's got PTSD, which, like you mentioned, 7% of vets have got it or suffered from it, it's not unusual to hear a veteran with PTSD. You hear about it a lot on the news. So, again, like you mentioned, it's kind of the norm, mental health issues now and people suffering. It's not a fringe thing. It's not something that people necessarily hide away. And I think actually probably helped Dave Grusch even more, because people can, like, they're almost got his back on the back of that. Say, well, you're a vet. You've obviously some horrible shit. If you've got PTSD and all this kind of stuff, no wonder you were drinking. No wonder you're probably suicidal at one point. I can only imagine the horrific stuff that these people see. So it is a low blow, and I think it was a cheap attempt that probably has backfired. Turns out that Klippenstein is the son of Stephen Klippenstein, who works for the Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory, who is one of the organisations that potentially would be compromised if the existence of alien life was confirmed by the Senate. Therefore, sounds a bit dodgy to me. So when you start seeing the motivations for people's reasons for attacking what appears to be a genuine guy, Dave Grusch appears to be a genuine guy. Obviously, I don't know him, but all the reports suggest that he's a nice guy. He's a family guy. He even said he's had some horrible stuff, like threatened essentially to his wife and himself. You have to wonder why these people are concerned with his mental health. What's that really got to do with it? And when you start looking as to who these people are and their backgrounds, it becomes very murky. And I think when it becomes murky, you have to question all motivations to attack Dave Grusch. And I don't think anybody can really. I think the UFO and UAP community are fully aware of his credentials and the fact that he seems like a sound guy. And I don't know, it's low blows, it's cheap. And I personally think he will come out of this stronger than he went in. He seems to have done from these congressional hearings. He went in as, like I said, it's kind of it's Dave Grusch. We've seen his big interview. What can he possibly say now? What can Dave Fravor say now? What can Ryan Graves say now? And then they sit there and everybody's like, holy shit. Ash is messaging me going, it's insane. I'm watching it. It's insane. And you just think it's just a weak attempt. And if that's the worst they can throw at him, that he's got PTSD and he's a war vet, I think he's on to a winner. If that's the thing, really. But
that's interesting because I didn't know the stuff about his dad, and I was going to mention Klippenstein and kind of like his motives, like why. So obviously, I think most of us never heard of him before. He's not really like a UFO like reporter or anything like that. You've got to think why would you do this? Why would he drag someone through the mud? What was his aims?
Follow the money. Always follow the money.
Yeah, that kind of answers that question if his dad is possibly somehow involved.
All this stuff really just sounds like a bit of a comedy, though, doesn't it? Because I think the DOD are really rattled, and I think Grusch's testimony did really rattle them, and they're just casting around to see how they can get him. And I wonder if that Klippenstein link, one of them said, "Oh yeah, my son works as a journalist. He's just a man for this," and that's maybe why he did it. You know, he could be as crap as that, but I think really they obviously rattled, as I say. Grusch's evidence is really solid, and it's not been effective, but. In the 70s, it might have been, but that's a really good point Greg and Davey both made about the fact that things have moved on now. And it says more about these people and what century they're living in, that they think they're smears, than about, anything more about Grusch. And it just shows a disgraceful sort of gutter that they inhabit, really, isn't it? So, and we haven't probably got time for it nowadays, but that stuff with the mental health stuff, particularly around people with UAP, is such good work to do. Particularly people that experiences and other people who, can't really tell the story. I mean, that's fantastic work as well. But essentially, mental health issues, as you say, are becoming people will talk about. I'll talk about issues I've had if I need to, because the more you talk about it, the more people feel they can. But anyway, I think the point is it backfired because things have changed as well. So I think that's a really strong point.
Brill, got anybody anything else to add before we move on to our next topic?
Nope.
Cool. Well, we have a surprise guest. Not quite a surprise, but we do have UK UAP. Ash is in the house. How you doing, Ash?
Yeah, good evening, guys. Yeah, all good, thank you. Finally here. Got my baby monitor next to me, so I have to rush off again, that's why. But no, thanks for having me. Looking forward to speaking with you guys.
Nice one. Cool. So the next topic we're going to talk about is kind of on the same theme, is the hearings. And it's emerged last month, that the influential Mike Turner, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, has been trying to block any further public oversight committee hearings on UAP in Congress. Turner doing this makes it harder for those Congress people to follow up on a testimony. So it's kind of like a bit of a roadblock hitting kind of impasse that we're at the minute. So Tim Burchett leaked this, much to Turner's annoyance, but Turner had been doing the rounds saying he did not believe Grusch and that there's no evidence. And this on its own infuriated UAP activists, given how clear the evidence was, and Turner seemed not to have read it. This was added to when it emerged that he received massive funding from Lockheed and other reference contractors and Wright-Patterson Air Base, home of some of the alleged crash retrievals, and is in his district. People began to see a big Department of Defense anti-disclosure rat at play. This mood was not improved when, whilst touring her constituency, Senator Gillibrand, who's kind of been a bit of a spokeswoman leader in this whole thing, appeared to laugh at what UAPs could be and say that they could have been drones and that Arrow was looking into it. All of this went down badly with the UAP community again and prompted fears that future hearings may be off in the Senate and that Gillibrand was maybe distancing herself from the issue, kind of the opposite to how she's been for the past 12 months. So, has the fight back begun? And is this going to be something that will succeed? Davey, what's your thoughts on this?
So, Mike Turner is based in the same area that has Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and receives money from Lockheed. I think you would probably be hard pushed to find a region of the US that doesn't have some type of military industrial facility. They are so widespread across the US. And some people would tell you that the reason for that is so that these companies have a means of exerting political sway over every region. If you have a facility in each state, you can exert a degree of power over the senators of those states. Or you can realise that most of these military companies, the likes of Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, have been made up of, in some cases, 100 years' worth of mergers and acquisitions. So the very nature of global business means that lots of small companies are subsumed, are grown out, are bought out by larger companies. They close down the facilities they don't need. They keep the ones running. You look what's happened with banking in the UK, for example. We now have 4 or 5 banks. Same with energy companies. You have 4 or 5 energy companies. That is the way of the world. Maybe there is more to it than that. I like a good conspiracy theory, but this isn't one I'm going to buy into. Sorry, I'll be too busy watching the chemtrails. So if we think about this, and this is one of my biggest concerns that I have about this disclosure movement. And I know we have this legislation that even the commercial aspects of it, the businesses have to declare whether they have any exotic or non-Earth origin materials. But it's impossible, in my opinion, to separate the commercial from the political. And I have my good friend Christian Thompson, aka UAP DB, UAP database. He planted this seed in my head because we started talking about the East India Company. And for those of you who don't know about the East India Company was set up from the UK by the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office as a trade, as an industry, primarily to ship goods between the East Indies, the UK, and further afield. Ties right back to slavery, ties right back to empire and commonwealth. So when we think about, okay, the US government's been really smart here. They've stashed this material with Lockheed, with Northrop, with McDonnell Douglas, with SAIC, for example. It's not new. The Brits have been doing that for centuries, tying the commercial and the political together. I'm a bit of a Star Wars nut as well. What's the underlying theme in Star Wars? Trade wars. So I really do think it's going to be impossible to disengage the political from the commercial. And that's where I see this disclosure movement really stalling. And I get that pushback from the likes of Mike Turner and even that, chuckling laugh. And I think it was more of a chuckle than a laugh from Senator Gillibrand in that interview where she was interviewed within her own constituency. But yeah, I really am cautious about how anybody ever thinks in terms of disclosure you can untangle those two elements.
Brill. Some great points, especially that stuff about all the trade stuff. I mean, it's money, isn't it? You got to always follow the money train, for want of a better word. Ash, do you want to bring you in on this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have too much to add, really. I think Davey succinctly summed that up quite nicely. But yeah, I'd tend to agree with him on the point around, let's not jump to assumptions. I think you're right. You make a really good point there around the sheer amount of military bases across the whole of the United States and how they're distributed. I think it's all too easy when you're interested in this subject to automatically jump to conclusions and, find the conspiratorial link there. I think people do that because they are very invested in the topic, very interested in the topic, and it's easy to do that. But I think we do need to be cautious of that. But yeah, I think we are starting to see this is part of the pushback that everyone's spoke about, and I think we're starting to see that, and this is one element of that. This isn't really related to this, but I just saw something today around apparently some Roswell footage has been released as well of crashed balloons and things like that. It's like, well, why is that suddenly been released now? There's clearly a reason for that. The timing is just so suspect, and I think that's what we're witnessing here as well. We're just seeing lots more pushback from every angle, because I think they realise there's something feels different this time around what's being released and the witnesses coming forward. So I expect to see more of this happening over the coming weeks and months. And I guess we just have to wait and see what the next skeleton in the closet is they're going to try and pull out and try to deceive everyone with. But I think that's my take on it at the moment. Sorry, my mind's still in baby mode.
For sure. Greg, do you think this is the start of, I guess, like say, the pushback on all of this? Muted. Still muted.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. I think the problem is when they first started and the congressional hearings come out, and that first one happened where they showed that it was a bit of a weak attempt. They were trying to rewind video on the fly, and they were like, go back a bit, and we'll see this little ball go past supersonic speed past this airplane. And they were going, no, you're and it was a bit disorganized. Then you've got Arrow coming to the forefront and Sean Kirkpatrick, and then his attempt, I don't know what he was doing in that briefing that time when he was sat in with Gillibrand and everybody, we were all discussing the fact that he just really didn't even want to be there, which put Arrow on a bit of a back foot, I think, at that point anyway. But then these congressional hearings took place recently with Dave Grusch et al. And you've got people like, whether you like him or loathe him, Jeremy Corbell in the background. It was super high profile. You got AOC doing some of the questioning as well. She was questioning people. So you've got these high profile people around the hearings. Everybody was hyped up in the UAP community globally, I think. Everybody was super excited. And I think that was a massive turning point. And I think that caught a lot of the previous bunch of senators who probably were happy for this joke thing to go along, and we'll do all this. We'll just do this initial public hearing. We'll see what happens, and we can sort of not do it again because people will be laughing at it as they assumed people would be. But I think this particular hearing, I think, hammered them. And I don't think a lot of the ones that weren't in that room, who were probably against it and who are taking money from the likes of all the big like military people like Lockheed, everybody like that, who have obviously got their fingers in a lot of pies for swaying black budgets. I think it took a lot of them by surprise. And this is now them saying, oh shit, we've probably let this go a bit too far. There's a bit too much of instead of a ripple in the community, I think there's been a bit of a wave. So again, Dave Grusch, they're trying to knock him, and then all these other ones going, oh, we're going to push back. I think they're too late. Personally, I think there's a bit too much momentum behind it now. And like I say, Corbell, whether you like him or not, when I listen to his podcast now, the Weaponized podcast, since the hearings and before the hearings, I kind of see he seems to have been quite instrumental in some of it. As much as I didn't like to say it, he does appear to have been a bit of a driving force, and they could have had Grusch years ago. George Knapp could have. So I'm just wondering now if the powers that be and those in the know that don't want this to come out, it is their fight back. But I don't know if they're too late, personally.
Dave, what's your thoughts on this whole topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think while the other one about Grusch was a bit ineffective because it was a character attack, they're on a bit much safer ground, the forces of non-disclosure, because they're used to manipulating congressional mechanisms and all the rest of it. It's their turf, as it were. We've seen them do it before. So I think the first sort of rumblings we saw of that was they started blocking some witnesses for the hearings, if you remember, before they come across. So they knocked off 3 of them at least. Then they denied the use of the skiff on the day, and they made it awkward for him to set it up. And there's still something going on about removing Grusch's security clearance so he can't testify in a skiff. That's still ongoing. It's not entirely clear what they're doing with that. So that was the first indication they were a bit better, but it still didn't stop it. There was also, I think you're right, there was a lot of excitement from all these people on setting up a select committee, and I think that really spooked them. Because that select committee is a bit like that in Godfather 2, where they've got a prosecutor sort of, and they can ask questions and subpoena people. It's really serious. And so I think they were trying to scupper that. You had, and that's when they rolled out Mike Turner, because he's quite powerful. He's had an intelligence committee. He's got a lot of sway in stopping things. And he said, it's making the defence look bad. But Burchett bubbled him, really, and sort of made that public, which he didn't like. And I think a few others have come out as well who, like you're saying, David, it's all over the place. They take care in the US to spread it out so they've got influence wide. But I think, as you were saying, Greg, it's a bit too late, really. And I think there's too many people, and like you say, the level of question, I think there's too many of them who are it's trumping the fact that they're actually, their role has been subverted, and they've realised that, because you could see with the interest of the questions. So it's almost like, again, too little, too late. But just to talk about Gillibrand, I think that's been a bit overdone. Because really, she was talking to a lot of normal people in the constituency. In August, they all go around sort of, fundraising, getting support for upcoming. So she was talking to a lot of, inverted commas, normal people who knew nothing about UAPs. And I thought she was just trying to jolly it along as a not, because it sounds a bit weird talking about it. And I think with Gillibrand, you should judge her more on what she's done rather than what she says. And she's a presidential candidate. So I think what I actually think is going on here is Senate's closed for April, yeah? There's a lot of people getting worried, but nothing's happening, so nothing can happen. And in that vacuum, various different people are getting a bit overexcited. The UAP people are worried that something's going to happen, so they're being overly pessimistic. Rox Coulthard does a great line in that, really. And you've got other people, and I think as I say, the Pentagon people have realised it's a bit too late. And I think they're overreacting to, as I say, what's her name, Senator Gillibrand. But there's nothing actually to suggest that the planned senatorial hearings in September have been stopped. People are still, they're doing a lot of preparation for them. There's a lot of people being called. That work's ongoing. So we think they're going to happen sometime in late September, those hearings. That's still going ahead. As you said earlier in the last answer, David, there's a lot of people who are still coming forward. There's about partly over 60 people now are ready to come forward. Loads of people they've got these little syndicates of different ex-intelligence people who are helping them bypass Arrow and taking them directly to the Congress, So that's still ongoing. That does seem to have stopped it. There's also, if you remember, in veiled threats before it happened in 21 and before that from Lou and everybody else saying, and James Fox, as you mentioned, saying essentially, if you don't play ball on this, we're going to release it anyway. And we've got a lot of indication that sort of gun's being pulled out of the holster, as it were. So I think really. So what we said is it's a bit excitable in August, but I think, as you were saying, it's already gone too far for them to stop it. And I think in that other pod we did, I think what will happen is, because Davey's right, the sort of military-industrial complex is too important for them to compromise. So really, they'll just subsume them into it and make them part of it. Now, if you read Chris Sharp's article, apparently Lockheed were into this because they couldn't get enough people to work on the programs because they're too compartmentalized. So what we'll probably see is a readjustment in the relationship between the people working on this stuff and the US government, and that's probably what will come out of this in the end. But they certainly won't be. I don't think they'll be pilloried, the industrial things. They'll just become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So, as I say, I think we'll see the proof of the pudding in September, and this may just prove to be a rather ineffectual but more effective element of the fight back. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think the important point you mentioned at the start about the skiffs and whether David Grusch will have the clearance to actually enter that, because obviously when you go back to the hearing, it was like, I can give all this information, names, projects, locations, people, dates, everything, but I do it in these skiffs. If they're going to prevent that from happening, it kind of thinks, where do we go from here? It's kind of, it keeps at that level of a hearsay type thing where you're not actually passing information to the people that want to hear it. So it just seems to be a bit of a sort of a downplay recently on that side of it. Anyone got any response, Dave, on his thoughts? Ash?
Yeah, I was just going to say a bit on the skiff. I mean, I'm not an expert in kind of US security clearances, but I mean, surely they can do that. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, he still knows this information. So surely, if someone of authority wanted to obtain that information from him, there would be a mechanism that would allow that to take place. I don't see by removing his or revoking his security clearance, it would suddenly mean he can't talk about it. Yes, there might be a specific location he needs to talk about it in a skiff, so it is secure and it's free from electrical interference and it's all done officially, etc. But I don't see how that's going to prevent him from being able to divulge the information to the relevant people. It just seems like a feeble attempt at trying to silence him, in my opinion. But like I say, I don't know the ins and outs, but I do remember hearing on the Weaponized podcast, like you were mentioning, Greg, I'm pretty sure George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell said they'd been in a skiff, and neither one of those are security cleared. So there clearly is a way that people without security clearance can go into skiffs or provide that information. So I think that might be a little bit of a diversion we're seeing there.
Yeah, it seemed pretty unclear. It's all a bit murky, isn't it, what it actually means? Because the implication was he couldn't talk about it to anybody because his clearance had been taken. And I agree with it. I thought the same as you, Ash. I thought, how does that work? So it's a bit murky. Yeah, like you said, he's just clutching at straws, really, aren't he, and trying to throw a bit of shade on.
I mean, if anything, it's just going to make it harder for him to obtain work and carry on doing what he's doing, isn't it? It's just to frustrate him and make his life as hard as possible. I think is the real reason behind the revocation of security clearance or the attempt to.
Yeah, I think Ash's point, though, is they are desperately trying to stop it. The other Ash, sorry, he's definitely trying to stop him taking it beyond hearsay. Because imagine if he would have gone at that skiff that day when he said, "Oh, I can tell you exactly." Do you remember he said that in the hearings? Then he would have reeled off the list. God, they must have all been really sweating at that point, didn't they? The people who want to keep it quiet. So I don't know, but it's small beer, isn't it? In the scheme of the things, it's only going to stop him temporarily, if at all.
What I did want to say quickly is, we talked about whistleblower protection many roundtables ago, and the fact that whilst they can't be seen to be actively having a negative impact on these whistleblowers, this is probably how they will start to do it. That they'll block people, they'll start to bring out dirt on them, trying to discredit them, rather than blocking them from future roles. They'll make them unemployable, essentially, and make them a liability just purely from their background and things that they've been through. So this could be the way that they're going to try and attack whistleblowers without circumventing a Whistleblower Act. So,
well, if you remember, we said the profile would be older people who are near retirement or who retired for that basis, on that very basis.
Yep.
And that's probably what I would suggest we see. With people like Grusch are very rare, who are so committed and brave, to sort of gamble everything and, for the truth. There's not many of them to the pound, I'll tell you.
Anything to add, Davey?
Not on that one, other than if you go to the DNI website on ICIG whistleblower information, there are some quite interesting timelines around the times in which they have to process an ICIG complaint, similar to that David Grusch has done. With the first being that they do an internal agency review, which takes 60 days. It then comes out to an external review panel, and there's a further 270 days. So there are some timelines around these actions, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, what's happened with his ICIG complaint?" And I don't think I've heard anybody ask Ross Coulthard or Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp if they know what the timeline is around updates on this whistleblower complaint. And I think that would be a really interesting avenue for further investigation and exploration.
Yeah, really good point, that.
Well, anybody anything else to add before we move on? So we kind of stick again into the same sort of area. Some news that's come out this week. in fact, is the launch of a new website for the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, Arrow. It's got this brand spanking posh kind of website. So just a quick look on the front page. It's got a message in there from Sean Kirkpatrick, who is the director of Arrow. I talked about it. Basically, it's going to be a website where military personnel can basically submit any sort of UAP kind of report to them through the website, which is coming soon. How long it will be before we see it, I'm not too sure. And what I thought was interesting is he mentions on here about civilian pilots as well, so that they have their own reporting kind of process through the air traffic control, which then gets passed on to them from the Federal Aviation Federal Aviation Administration. I'm not sure we'd heard too much about that in the past, where I will receive reports from the FAA. I'm not sure that's something I've not personally looked into too much, whether you guys have. I'm not sure. So what do you make of the website? Greggy, who had a look at it?
I'm on it now. Interestingly, everything's coming soon, and where you try and submit a US government UAP related program stroke activity report, you can't. So at the moment, it's essentially not worth the paper it's written on. So I think for all the good it does and highlights it, the fact that it doesn't even work seems like another blocker that we go, look, you can report all this stuff. We'll give you mechanisms. You can go via a VPN, so we don't even know who you are to begin with. And then you go on there because you're all of a sudden you go, right, I'm fired up. Grusch has done his thing. Fravor's done his thing. Ryan Graves has done his thing. Let's do this. Go to press the button and lose your bottle because you can't do anything. And I think that kind of seems to have summed up Arrow from day one. It promised the world and slightly under-delivers.
Slightly.
It's a lovely little website. It's a lovely website, nice and clear and basic. Unfortunately, it just don't work, really. And I don't know if they list any telephone numbers or an email address you can send something to. I'm just having a look now. No, basically, it doesn't even tell you. I'm just going on the FAQs. How can I share information with Arrow? They should report to military personnel should report through their command or service in accordance with GenAdmin, Joint Staff, whatever. Civilian pilots are encouraged to promptly report UAP sightings to air traffic control. I can't see them doing that. And general public will announce when a reporting mechanism is available for use for others. So at the moment, the website is practically useless because it doesn't tell anybody anything different than what they would have to do through their line of command anyway. So it's all noise to me. I'm taking a leaf out of your book, Ash. I'm being very pessimistic about it all.
Who wants to go next? Who wants to talk about the website, Davey?
Yeah, I first of all think it shows the sort of the disdain with which this has been treated shows a terrifying level of, dare I say it, arrogance. I don't know, pardon the pun.
Very good, Davey.
The first time I tried to get onto the website, it locked me out, and I spent 40 minutes trying to get into it, Ash. I think I'd just been locked out, so sorry for that reference. No, I think it's awful. My 10-year-old daughter could design a better website. It's clearly been pushed along. What I would suggest anybody to do, if you're in the website now as you're listening to this, which of course I know everybody will be, go to the search box at the top and type in the word retrieval. So crash retrievals is a big topic. It's what David Grusch has been talking about through his whistleblower ICIG complaint. It links to 2 PDF documents, but you can't access them. both pages have been subsequently removed. So they sit there somewhere, and there's somebody far better at website penetration than me could probably get there through a SQL injection or somewhere like that. There's techniques for finding these pages, but yeah. So that tells you everything you need to know about it. The website itself is just an absolute joke, isn't it? Designed by a 10-year-old and put together by a 4-year-old. And that's not a criticism of young children. It's just that they're far better than we are. Perhaps, again, this is a reflection of the people and the generation and the age of the people that we are coming up against in this topic, and that they are slightly far removed from reality, let's say. The other thing I would say about it as well is there's been news recently that the Deputy Secretary of Defence has now taken a more prominent role with Arrow, a lady by the name of Kathleen Hicks, and she said that she believes that transparency is a critical component of Arrow's work. She's committed to sharing their discoveries with Congress and the public, and consistent with their responsibility to protect critical national defence and intelligence capabilities. But just nothing there, and I think she's probably jumped all over Kirkpatrick and team and forced this to happen, probably much to the chagrin of a certain Mr. Ron Moultrie, who was the previous reporting line for Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick.
Ash, you got something to add, I believe, on this?
Yeah, so Davey was saying about the PDF documents. I've literally I've just managed to find them because somebody, luckily, when that page was obviously live, has archived it on the Wayback Machine, which is a really good website for finding websites that are no longer active or the pages have been deleted. And it's actually a PDF document looking at it. And I've seen pictures of this on X or Twitter, whatever we want to call it these days. But it's basically a slide deck for the US Defense Department and the UAP mission by Sean Kirkpatrick. It's unclassified level, but it's interesting why they've removed it. But it's basically the slide deck. I don't know if people saw some screenshots of during the week, but people were talking about this sphere clip art that was used or something. It was like an object. It was an object that was in the bottom right hand corner of this document, and it was stock imagery basically. But it talks about UAP signatures and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's interesting why they've removed that. What's in that document that's they don't know, no longer want on the website, or perhaps there's some errors in there. But it is actually, you can actually find it on the Wayback Machine if you type in the internet, the full address that's showing the link dead to. So yeah, that's just interesting why they've removed that. I'll have to have a proper dig through it now we know it's there. But yeah, in relation to the website itself, I agree with Davey. I think it looks really basic. It's like the worst website wireframe ever. It literally looks like something out of the 90s. I mean, yeah, that's meant to be a professional site from the US Department of Defense. It's pretty shocking. One thing I did find of interest though is if you go right down to the bottom, there's a big logo that says Veterans Crisis Line, which is great, helping veterans through crisis, mental health, etc. But why have they had to make it so prominent? It's almost like there's that subtle subliminal link to, oh look, David Grusch has got mental health problems. If you're on this website, it's clearly because you've got mental health problems, and it's that. I don't know. Maybe we're jumping to conclusions here, but it seems interesting. I've checked on a couple of other US Department of Defense military websites, and I can't see that on there. So it's interesting why they've decided to put that on there, bearing in mind their core mission and the actual whole idea behind the website. They haven't even got that bit sorted yet, but they've had the thought of, oh well, we should put the veteran support logo on there. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit cynical, but I just found that instantly suspicious when I looked at it.
If you look at stuff over the years, I don't think the governments and the people that set up all this stuff do anything by accident. I think there's a lot of it is controlled. Right. They control everything. Like they've not got that submit button. They put so probably somebody's scrolling all the way up and down to see how else they can contact. They come across that button, like you just say, Ash, and they go, "Oh shit, maybe I won't."
I mean, I was laughing at that because I thought that you'd probably be quicker ringing them, but it would to try and go through Arrow to try and report something, wouldn't you? Given most of the people are veterans, you know what I mean? Absolutely. I mean, I did it. You might be right, but I'm not doing anything by accident. But they really are. I mean, this I always see with wearing big red shoes and driving a clown car that explodes when it gets into the ground. This lot because they're absolutely useless. I mean. The reason Kathleen Hicks is involved, she should have been involved 6 months ago. I heard that spokesman said, oh, yes, it's great. She's really got an eye on it. She should have been there 6 months ago. And it's that embarrassing but she's had to dive in and maybe, because it's just pathetic, isn't it? I mean, basically, we've had the accusations of slow progress, but it's particularly embarrassing that they've got a website that's not up and running 18 months after it was mandated. Absolutely ludicrous. And they've basically been having a laugh, sticking two fingers up or one finger up, I suppose, in the States, everybody, and saying, we're not doing it. It was on Moultrie's desk at Christmas, apparently, and what's he done since? And then it was embarrassing after Kirkpatrick started to complain that whistleblowers were circumventing him and not going forward because people were being nasty about him. And in fact, they couldn't go anywhere because the website wasn't up and running. How ludicrous was that? It's absolutely pathetic.
You can get a website up and running in a few minutes nowadays.
Exactly. Even I could do it.
It's not like back in the old days where you used to have to have webmasters and all that kind of stuff. Like you mentioned, Davey, kids can put a website up in probably minutes nowadays.
Well, we have AI as well. You can literally tell it what you want it to do, and it will create a basic template, and it looks 10 times, 100 times better than that. So, no excuse.
So last week it was launched, and it's got a mission statement, a vision statement, and all the rest of it is stuff that are just from his old slides. I recognised every one. People were getting excited about that. When he mentioned craft recovery, as if that was something. It wasn't in that PDF, unless they're a bit sensitive about that. But that was just what he put before when he was trying to write that Fantasy Island a few months ago about because he was doing this presentation and he realised that he'd not done anything at all that was linked to the original NDA. All the different things they had to do. So he put on his slide, this is what we're going to do in the future to address all these issues. That's all that is. If you read it, I've read it. It's just the same crap that he put up before. They've got the three famous videos from the New York Times saying they're unresolved, and now the only other ones are things they think they've resolved or whatever. So, and they're saying in the future apparently they're only going to put resolved, unclassified ones on. Well, that narrows the field a little bit, doesn't it? What's the point of that? I'd rather they put things that were unresolved that they didn't know about, but it's just the same stupid Fantasy Island cobbler's place they live in. We've got Grusch on one side saying we know about it, and we've got Arrow with the fingers in their ears going la 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 la, trying to take us back sort of 10 years to where we are now. So there's nothing new, I don't think. It's just a load of window dressing really thrown together and the same dodgy sophistry that they're employing really. The bottom line is nobody's got any faith in Kirkpatrick, have they? And his statements, his lack of progress. And if they want to get rid of the whistleblowers, have got no faith in him. That's why they circumvent Arrow. So if they want to really reboot that office, they need to get rid of him. And that's the bottom line. Nobody's got any. It's just a living metaphor for how they don't care. How they can talk about transparency and whatever and openness. It's been an absolute. Kathleen Hicks should hold her head in shame at having this bunch of jokers that she's over behaving like this. It's absolute disgrace. Anyway, just a couple of last points when my blood pressure goes down slightly. Firstly, just remember the Arrow report is still delayed. Should have been in June. They were going on, it's not ready for August. I thought, forget about August. It was June. It should have been out. He's still not done that. And I wonder why this is. Is it linked to Grusch's testimony and he can't keep up this cobbler's line of no evidence of whatever NHI craft? Because that's crucial. Can't say extraterrestrial anymore now. It's NHI if he goes to the legislation, and that means he can't use his little weasel words to get out of it as easily. But anyway, I wondered, there has been rumours from old Sharpie that he said in Liberation Times that he's been given a crash craft by somebody or some material. Now, if he's actually got that in the department, he's probably put it somewhere in a broom cupboard, hasn't he, and tried to test the cleaner to ignore it, go around it. But he can't quite say he's no more evidence. He don't know what to do. So maybe that's it. And then you've also got his partners in crime, NASA, who are in the same Fantasy Island as he is. Their report's been delayed as well. And why is that? Presumably, Bill Nelson's sort of rolled out of whatever office he's in and said, what we're reporting on? Oh, well, we're just going to talk about ways we can spot UAPs. Oh, yeah, ways we can look at them. Have we looked at our hackers? Oh, no, we're not. We're nowhere near that yet, Bill. And he's probably said, we're going to look like a load of idiots here. What are you doing? And so I think the report, they're trying to revamp it. And I also think, and I thought this when Grusch was testifying, they were one statement away from being exposed as being complicit in what they've been doing, as we all know what they've been up to for the last 30, 40 years. I thought, and I think they've realised that if they put a report out, some nothing burger report, they're going to look stupid if something comes out. So both these organisations are in some sort of stasis, truth stasis, because they dare not say anything, because whatever one wrong step and they'll be exposed as the charlatans they are. So so I really enjoyed the new website, as you can tell, and I really I thought it was the only thing is, I suppose, forget about us, they have got a website and that does raise the profile. So that's, while I'm being very negative, the fact of its existence is, I suppose, a positive for people who aren't that much into it. So there you go. That's my stunning review of their website.
No, I think Dave's been abducted.
He's shut down. But yeah, I think
I don't like what he's talking about.
Disconnect.
Yeah, I think that was quite unanimous across the panel regarding the Arrow website. One thing I did notice is if you scroll down to the bottom, you go on the Education and Resources tab. The trackers. You got space object trackers, ISS tracker, aircraft trackers, balloon trackers,
satellite trackers.
Where am I going?
At the very bottom.
I think that's quite a good idea, though. I think that's quite good to have that, because you probably do get a lot of people that just jump to conclusion, go, "Oh, it must be a UFO," and they do no due diligence or actually an investigation themselves. And like these basic little tools can actually go, "Well, actually, yeah, is a satellite, or is at the ISS passing or something." So I kind of get their point on that. They only want the quality reports, and you want to try and filter out the crap, don't you? Really, and anything that is going to them, you want to make sure first and foremost, well, have you done your due diligence before we investigate it? So I think that's a good idea.
Balloon tracker's a good one, actually.
Yeah, I'd not heard of that one before.
No. I wonder how fast they got that up. Faster than the website, I expect.
Hey, I'm back now. How far did I get to, lads? Where did I finish?
We saw you get abducted through the window, and that was it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, did I finish? Was I going on about NASA? Did you hear that bit? Because I was talking to myself. Like, all right. Well, you probably heard the best of it then. I just had to be sedated then. A load of medics run in and sedated me after. And that the bit you might not have heard me say was that at the end of it all, at least it's out there for the public. So for the people who aren't informed, it's probably good visibility. So I did have one positive remark in a sea of negativity. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about the trackers that are on there as well. As someone who I investigate in UFOs on a weekly basis, when reports that come into UFO identified, and these are all tools that we use as part of, it's like the basics. We have a checklist we go through, and we'll check all of these different types of programs for each sighting. I guess, like you say, Ash, about weeding out the good ones from the ones that are the space station, whatever. But it's kind of, to me, it's interesting. It's on there. I think it's kind of like, is it them just saying, "Yeah, this explains it all," rather than like, don't.
I was thinking that
this just explains everything.
It's that subliminal kind of like thought planting again, isn't it? But then also on the flip side, is it also the fact that they're a small department? They literally don't have the resources to thoroughly investigate stuff, so they kind of want you to do most of the investigation before it gets to them. So it could be either of those, couldn't it, or a bit of both.
I think they can't be bothered employing anybody else because they might actually find something. I think that's more accurate.
Don't look too hard, boys. Don't look too hard.
No. That's what I mean. They didn't even record him, did they? The nuclear. Was it Salas, the nuclear? They had to ring him up and ask him for his notes at the interview because he hadn't recorded it and they hadn't taken him. How pathetic is that? And I can only think they didn't record it because they didn't want to have any evidence of anything they didn't want to investigate. That's the only reason I can think for that. Absolutely useless.
It's almost scandalous. It is scandalous, to say the least. If that was the UK politicians and all this was kicking off, you can imagine what PMQs would be like on a Wednesday afternoon. Keir Starmer would be going ape shit.
Get the popcorn out.
Yeah, I would tune into that specifically. I listen to the PMQs a lot, and then go at each other. Any excuse, but this would take the biscuit. I think it would really be something to some sight to behold. That would.
We should maybe do that at Christmas. Do some sort of sketch, a Prime Minister. Yeah, Sean Kirkpatrick question time.
Yeah.
Sean, do you believe what you were saying? Yes or no? Anyway, I can think of a few now. Right.
So moving on to something completely a little bit different. This is a couple of weeks old now, as we're recording this. But very interesting, I guess, a few days occurred from Peru, as there was reports of attacks in the Amazon jungle in Peru on terrified villagers by reported 7-foot aliens floating off the ground, attacking villagers, wearing shiny suits with body armor, and trying to abduct villagers, including a 15-year-old girl. The story was taken extremely seriously by the Peruvian media. Some videos emerged, some very interesting videos, and the Navy recording to restore calm. Shortly after this, the local police blamed it on the local miners wearing jetpacks, trying to scare villagers off their land. It paints quite a picture. Some gold miners with jetpacks and guns or whatever the hell they've got on them. So, what do we make of this? It has kind of gone a bit quiet since it kind of happened a couple of weeks ago. But what's the panel's thoughts on this? Was it a total hoax? Is it, as they say, is it these gold miners with jetpacks, or is it something a bit more sinister, Dave S?
Right. Okay. Well. Right. Let me calm down from the website now, and I'll be trying to give you. Well, the first thing is there has been over the years in the Amazon cases of miners intimidating the local population and trying to scare them from the land from the mine. They mainly do it on water, and they do that sluicing of water on the banks of rivers. But there's also been a long history of reports of these strange creatures operating in the Amazon jungle from a lot of different people, from Brazil, this is Peru, but it's all that linked via the Amazon. So it's also true to say the villagers are all armed. They don't scare easy, and they normally fight these these people when they come and scare them. They're not stupid. They don't go, oh my God, So, but I think in the videos, they were actually terrified. They were scared to death. And as I say, they don't scare easy. And they clearly, for me, had seen something. Now, we've got reports of these 7-foot creatures, shiny suits, power, cloaking, invisibility, body armor, shot point blank, and they get up floating a few feet off the ground, trying to abduct people, particularly younger people. And a young girl of 15 was nearly taken. Now, there's also some pretty intriguing footage taken as well, that seems pretty genuine in terms of people's reactions and seeing something quite weird. The point is, I cannot see anybody in the deep Amazon jungle rolling around in a jetpack. Can you? At ground level, flying around, not without being turned into mincemeat very quickly. There's no chance. I think it's just absolutely ludicrous. And when I heard the explanation of these sort of crazed cartel sort of influenced jetpack flying sort of miners, who are all highly, mostly uneducated, hardly got any money themselves, and are just basically slewing a load of what I thought, there's no chance. And it was quite obvious when they were talking, but this ludicrous story of these jetpack miners, which sounds like some sort of game from the 80s, was just concocted to fit the reported facts. That's for me. Now, as you know, I like the crypto stuff, and it took my eye because it fits a load of factors of the crypto profile: the suits, the floating off the ground, the cloaking, all these things. I won't go into it now, but for me, it does fit a definite profile of what's going on now. But even whether you think that's right or not, clearly something for me sort of prosaic has gone on, really. And I think if you look at the crypto profile, what tends to happen when you get these sort of appearances, it's when the homes or the habitat of whatever these others are, who are living there, the theory is they're living underground or wherever in these isolated places, the jungle being a good place to do it. When they get disturbed or something happens, then they come out and start taking it out on the local population or whatever, behaving in this manner. Now, I think something disturbed them. I'll shut up in a minute, but I'll just finish this bit. There was apparently, which hasn't been reported, a massive military exercise going on in that part of the jungle. It had Brits, Americans, loads of different South American armed forces. A massive exercise at the time down there, and that was reported by a fellow called Timothy Alberino, who did a brilliant program on it on Jimmy Church. Now, I know Jimmy Church isn't to everybody's taste, but he does do some good interviews, and this was one of them. And so I wondered if something else, something had disturbed whatever this was in the jungle and they'd sort of come out. Or, and this is probably a bit too conspiratorial, whether there was some sort of operation being mounted against them. And this was the consequence, because it does seem in South America, you do get reports, unlike other parts of the world, like Calaris and all that, where there's more violent action taken by whatever seems to be down there. So for me, something happened. It fits the crypto part. I don't believe the explanations. I'm not saying I don't believe, I definitely believe it, but I just think it's too convenient the way it's been explained away. And so for me, I think there's something to it, and I find it particularly interesting because of my interest in the crypto profile. So I admit my bias
there. Ash. Let's go to
Yeah.
you.
So when I first heard about this, I instantly thought of you, Dave, and thought that is the crypto profile right there, because I'm interested in this as well. I also thought, as someone been watching The Mandalorian too much, because there's a lot of jetpack, there's a lot of mining going on. So yeah, there's a bit of a Star Wars link there as well. But no, getting back to the seriousness of it, I mean, it's just preposterous when you start looking at what it would take for this explanation to actually make sense. I mean, these jetpacks, yes, they exist, but they're not exactly easy to use. You need to be quite proficient with it. You need to have the training. That's not even mentioning the cost of them. They're hundreds of thousands of pounds, these bits of kit. Then you've got to think about the fuel. The fuel's not necessarily easy to obtain. You're talking about jet grade fuel, aviation fuel. Are you really going to have that in the jungle? Then, like you mentioned, Dave, actually, the practicalities of using this bit of kit in the jungle, the terrain is not the right terrain to be using it. The risk of you just shooting off and going straight into a tree, and it's just bonkers. So yeah, I don't think the jet, it was miners using jetpacks. Do organized crime groups that run some of these mines potentially have the means and the funds to do it? Yes, they might do. The big cheeses, the main players, but the average person digging the mines aren't going to, like you were saying, Dave. They can barely rub two things together themselves, let alone buy a jetpack. So yeah, it just makes no sense to me. And when we're talking about the actual witnesses as well, these people, yes, they live in remote locations, but they're not like an uncontacted Amazonian tribe. They know what's going on in the world. They have access to the internet, mobile phones. So it's not like they don't know what they're looking at. It's not like they've never seen a sci-fi movie, or they've never seen a human being wearing a suit, or they can tell the difference between something that's normal or something that's a bit out of this world. So I think we need to give them a bit more credit as well. And like you were saying, they seem genuinely quite scared in some of these clips as well. And you've got to ask yourself a question: what reason do they have to lie? These people lead a simple life. What are they getting out of this other than more hassle, more grief, and more emphasis on probably what is already a tough place to live anyway? And I think it's really interesting how it kind of was a big thing, and then the lid was put on it really quick, and suddenly other news got in the way, and nothing's really been said about it, which I find really interesting. And to touch upon your point, Dave, around what was actually going on, what caused it, if these are the others or the crypto terrestrials, whatever you want to refer to them as, which is very speculative, but if it is them, how do we know that the miners haven't been attacked too? Because they're not exactly going to report it, are they? Because they're doing illegal, they're carrying out illegal activities. So perhaps they've been digging into areas they shouldn't, and it's provoked this reaction. That's another theory potentially. I don't know, but yeah, I'm with you on that, Dave. Something's a little bit fishy here. I certainly do not prescribe to the explanation that's been given at all. I think it's ridiculous.
Davey,
you two have just convinced me. I came into this thinking this is just another distraction. We're in that pushback phase. We've seen with the smear campaign against Grusch. We've seen with the sneaked out video of Gillibrand giggling at the topic. And with them, we had the MH370 video, which Ash and I have talked about as well. Just absolute bonkers, distraction. Look at the bright, shiny thing. Don't pay attention to what's really happening. But you two have actually done a really good job there to make me stop and think a little bit. So the cost of a jetpack is about $300,000, $300,000. So expensive, very expensive, hard to fly, hard to fuel. If you have access to a $300,000 jetpack, do you use it just for scaring the locals? There are better ways to scare them. You just simply go in and you kill two of them. Yeah. There is a long history in South America of, so the name that these aliens were given by the locals was Los Pelacaras, which is the face peelers. And there is a long history of gangs, of syndicates involved in mining, in drug trafficking, in people trafficking in South America, taking somebody, cutting the face off and dumping them in a river. You can find stories about Los Pelacaros going back 10, 15 years, normally written by people from a religious support group locally that is having to deal with the aftermath of this and deal with the support to people. So there's definitely easier and better ways to scare somebody than be flying through the air. But what I really love, and this speaks to something in me that I'm still not sure about, is that we have this idea that this is almost like a primeval, a folkloric type story and legend. And yet the way that the head of the tribe described them was as the Green Goblin. So just as you were saying there, Ash, about they have access to modern media, they do. And the way that the modern media informs the myth-making, the storytelling, I find really interesting. I think there's more for us to understand there about how we view and interact with the anomalous and the unusual, and how we use modern media to create that frame of reference. I think that, for me, that's what this story tells about us as people and our interactions with those things we don't understand.
Greg?
I don't even know what to add to that. All three of you are just, I don't know.
Do you think?
I haven't really got anything more to say. I mean, who knows what actually happened? That's the thing. I mean, for example, and I'm just throwing it out here, don't shoot me as I'm saying this, but if you watch the Stephen Greer whistleblower presentation thing that he did with all these people come out, there's one ex-military guy who said that they were in the forest, they came across these unbadged military personnel type people with advanced tech, because there was this weird pyramid UFO type thing hovering. Who's to say it isn't just some military psyop that is ideal? Because if you can make it out to be something it's not, you can shut it down quite quick, because you go, these people, they don't know what they're on about. They like you mentioned, they can't really say much because a lot of the stuff they're doing is illegal anyway, so they go quiet. And who's going to believe these people, the locals, when, I don't know, what do they know type thing? That's looking at it from, say, a privileged first world point of view. It's like, well, they just live in the jungle. But like you said, Ash, is what have they got to lose by speaking out? That's the flip side. It's like, if we've talked all the way through today and this episode about following the money, following the motivation, why are these people doing what they're doing? There's no motivation for these people to say what they're saying. And I think you were bang on there, Ash, that all they're doing is ruining their reputation, essentially. And you could almost say the same for David Grusch. They're stepping out, these people, saying stuff, probably in the knowledge that they're going to be ripped into by the media, because who loves nothing more than putting some kind of front page that says locals see wild flying aliens killing people and all this kind of stuff in the forest. It writes the headline itself, and it's perfect for the Daily Mirror or the Star or something like that. So initially I thought it was potentially some kind of black project military thing out in the middle of nowhere doing their thing. But then listening to Dave and Ash, you kind of go, well, actually, yeah, why wouldn't it be, or why couldn't it be something more down to earth, as it were, and why am I always looking at something saying it's a black project? Why am I always thinking a lot of these things is distraction and whatnot? Why can't it be crypto terrestrials? Why can't it be something unusual? So I'm massively on the fence. I don't even know what to think anymore.
I mean, you've got to remember in Peru, they were absolutely gripped, the nation. It was all being reported properly seriously. So they had to shut it down pretty quick. And they come up with this sort of cobbled together story from what I can see, but absolutely fitted all the things. I mean, the thing about Greer and all the rest of it, he's got a very bad track record of vetting his people. So he has good witnesses alongside charlatans, for want of a better word, which has been evidenced for a bit. So I don't know whether to believe him or not. And it all fits into this thing of we've all got millions of spacecraft and we're all flying around. We're not far from flying around a solar system, setting up a McDonald's, are we, with Greer and all the rest of it? You know what it is. So, I mean, it could be a blackout, but I can't see any reason it would be. And I don't think the seriousness of which it was treated by the media would have suggested that. But equally, Greg, you can never dismiss something like that. You know. But I don't think it's likely. I must be honest with you. But it's a bit like when Mick West says it. Not that you're doing this, but he says, "Oh, it could be that," and then in the next breath he says it is that. You know, I'm not. I'm not. I know you're not. I'm just trying to illustrate the difference between it could be and it is. If you see what I mean. I think that's a really good point that you make, Davey, about listening to indigenous or local people. Because there's a history of Western archaeology, of reporting, of colonialism. It's all not taking these people seriously, as if they're some kind of subhuman or idiot or people to be laughed at. And they've actually got the narrative and they know what's happening. And these people, anyway, they're used to that environment and they knew it was well off the charts.
And that's a very good point, that they live and breathe that environment. So they would know what would be normal, what wouldn't be normal, everything like that. Like all the Native American tribes and around the skinwalkers and everything like that. They know what the land holds. They're not stupid people. They can't be stupid if they've been able to live for generations on the land.
You know your environment. You know, it's no different from you know, in the UK you see all the security announcements. It's like, you know, say it's sorted. You know, you're the best person to understand your environment. If something looks out of place, you need to let us know. Like, to report to the authorities.
Exactly.
It's the same here. These people live here every day. They know the land. They've you know, their ancestors have farmed it or whatever for years and years. You've got hundreds of generations of people living in there, so they would know if something looks out of place. I liked your comment, Greg, around potential covert black program, because that does kind of tie into the whole like Greer thing around the breakaway civilization as well, doesn't it? And this sort of like advanced civilization that's breaking away and sort of like easily deniable operations. But you got to ask yourself the question: well, why were they? What was their motive? Why were they trying to scare these people? So there must still be something, even if it is that. What are they hiding, or what's there that's that important that it needs securing? And you're worried about some villagers, you know, exposing it or something, you know. So yeah, there's more questions than answers with this, but it's really interesting. I think hopefully it's not the last we hear of it, and you know, someone who actually can get boots on the ground and do a bit more research into it, because I think it's really interesting, and yeah, I'm just fascinated by it.
Yeah, it's a super interesting. So that's something a bit different as well, which is always good. It's just like I said, the headline it writes itself. It's just a crazy, like, what the hell is going on? Anything to add before we move on to our final topic by anyone? Nope. Cool. So recently, and I think good to mention this with you two guys with us on the round table, because there's some linkage there. Our friend Paul Sinclair found Truth Proof, and all his work up there in the North Yorkshire. He's finally released his documentary Wolflands, available on Amazon and from the Truth Proof website. I know he's been working on this for quite a few years. Obviously, it's based on all of his research he's been doing for many, many years before that. So this documentary, Wolflands, talks about UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and basically mainly around dogmen and other strange things in that part of Yorkshire and the East Yorkshire coast and the Yorkshire woodland, the forest up there. You two guys were on. You recently did an episode about big cats in the UK, and he also touched a bit on dogs and hound, like these horror hounds and so that have been reported for hundreds of years, really, which does link into some of the stuff that Paul Sinclair talks about in the documentary. So let's start with you two then. Davey, if you've seen documentary, what did you think of it?
I've got an admission to make. I've not seen it yet. And I did have the chance to chat with Paul the other week at Awake, and I think Paul's wonderful. He feels to me like the next generation or the heir to the throne that was vacated by Tony Dodd. So Tony was somebody I had the fortune of meeting and chatting with many times over the years. And there's the same sort of level of research, the same level of understanding that Paul displays. It's on my list of things to watch. When Ash and I did our last episode on A, B, C's and D's, Alien Big Cats and Dogs, I took the Panthera Britain documentary, so I've watched that, so I can tell you all about black cats, but I haven't yet watched Wolflands by Paul. It is on my watch list. But just to echo one of the things we've talked about before, right across the whole of the UK, there is this legend in various regions of wolfmen, of black dogs. One thing Ash and I didn't discuss when we talked about this was the history of the werewolf. So there's a whole new topic there for us to dig into at some point. But yeah, particularly the Yorkshire Dales, there's a long history of the Bardguest, which is literally the town ghost. And they're not always black dogs, and they do have the ability to shape shift. They do have the ability to change form. Very locally to me, it takes the form of two glowing eyes that move across the top of the moorland, which when you look at what that could be, that could simply be two orange balls of light, two spheres, two globes, whatever, orbs as people talk about them now. But yeah, that area that Paul works in is absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to sit down and watch it, and I'm intrigued to hear what everybody else has to say about it.
Go on then, Ash.
Yeah, I have actually seen it, but as Davey said, we said we'd take a documentary each, and I still need to watch the Black Cat one, so that's on my list to do. I thought it was really, really good documentary. He released a teaser a couple of months back, and I was excited to watch that. It was quite a long teaser, actually, like 15 minutes on YouTube, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be good. And it was well worth the wait. He's been working on it for a couple of years now, with Les Drake as well. He's done like a lot of the filming and the production side of it. So yeah, really well worth the wait. I mean, the quality of the accounts and the people he's had involved in the documentary, and the sort of reenactments they've done, and it's just been really well done. And some of the artwork as well, and the way they kind of reenacted the sightings, it was actually quite haunting and quite scary in places, if you're not used to this kind of thing. So no, I thought it was done really well. Cinematography is great, some really good drone footage as well, and really built up the atmosphere around the accounts. And it's quite hard bringing accounts to life, and actually making the viewer be in that moment that the person was experiencing it. I think Paul really managed to achieve that with this film. So yeah, really good bit of work. I particularly like your point, David, because I'd written it on the notes here as well. I think he's definitely picking up from and following on from that work that Tony Dodd kind of done. So same area, same kind of incidents he's encountering. It's like that never stopped. Tony Dodd unfortunately passed away, but the actual incidents and the accounts of what's been going on hasn't stopped. It's if anything, it seems to have got more prolific, and obviously Paul's now in a place where he can follow on and investigate that. One account that I thought was worth mentioning, because it does link to Tony Dodd as well, is the Dalby Forest incident that he goes into in the documentary. So this is basically where, over a period of time, a load of mannequins, this was the official account, a load of mannequins were allegedly just dumped in the woods randomly in the middle of nowhere. But other people were saying, no, actually it was human bodies, human remains that were found, and that they'd actually been mutilated, and it was unexplained why they were found in that way. And allegedly there was some sort of cover-up with the government, and the military were involved, and the local coroner kind of confirmed that yes, there were people that were found here over a period of time. So I don't know too much more about it. I need to reread Tony Dodd's book, but I remember reading that in a book years back, and I just thought it was interesting that Paul Sinclair's now looking back into that, because we always talk about the US and all the cover-up and everything that's going on over there, but I'm pretty certain there's probably a lot going on over in this country as well that we're just maybe better at keeping the secrets. But yeah, all in all, great documentary. Highly recommend it. Get out there and watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, I mean the mannequin stuff it's creepy as fuck, and like you say, like what Paul says in the documentary as well is, if it happens once, maybe like someone can see a bit of like an arm and reporting the police come and it's a mannequin. Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But I think it was 7.
Yeah, it was like 7 or 8. 7 or 8 people aren't going to confuse a human body for a mannequin, are they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's pretty insane. And I mean, I'm no stranger to standing in the forest at 2 a.m, calling out, looking for dark men and stuff who were out there a couple of weeks ago, doing a very similar thing. But hearing these people talk and recounting their experiences, and some of them I knew about from Paul's talks and Paul's books. I was glad to see some of them made it into the documentary. I was like, yes, it's covered this one. And it's just, it really, really is creepy. I had goosebumps watching it, hearing them talk about their experiences, and I got the ex-soldiers going in there who basically like just noped out of there when they had their experiences, and it is really, really, really well done. Dave, what's your take?
I thought it was really, really good. See, a lot of these films can be hit and miss when you see these films produced. They don't really like a storyline, or it's just not very well put together. Now, Paul himself is a really good speaker, and he's at his best spontaneously, I think. And he's not quite as good when he's rehearsed, but he got that balance right in this film perfectly of his excellent storytelling plus the connectedness of the story. So I thought it was great. It was like the other guys have said, it was well filmed. It made sense. You got a sense of the history of the land and the myths, and as well as the specific cases and the sort of journey around that bit of Yorkshire is really weird now. So he's really effective. Now, I followed him for quite a bit. I mean, I think you put me onto him at UAP, Ash, I should say, a lot. I mean, I'd seen him before, but I really, because all that stuff around that is a very freaky place around there. I mean, Davey, you're very near there, aren't you? You're in the middle of it, really. But it's a very weird place, lots of history. Now, personally, without being like a broken record, I think there's a good case for if there is something to this crypto thing or whatever, this is a perfect area for it. It's isolated. A lot of the cases Sinclair describes, you got the animals appearing, people being pursued by invisible forces. You've got all these different things, the red eyes, the people going through portals. It's got everything. And without having some sort of model to explain it, it's very difficult to make sense of what is bewildering, really. Anyway, he captured that. Now, I'm not saying I completely believe that, because if you listen to DJ on the Cab podcast, he knows a lot of Bigfoot people and they swear that they're all physical beings. But to me, anyway, I thought he really captured that sense of awareness and the link to some of the military facilities. And there's a lot of strange stuff. I think there's also bases on the cliffs near that place he goes to, where they've seen the sights out to sea. So I think there's a lot going on there. Anyway, I also thought that they also hinted in the film at this abduction phenomenon. He didn't want to go too far down because that was linked to the mannequins, wasn't it? But I do think it is a bit of a theme as well. Where do people go to? And we look at that David Paulides' work in the States about people going missing. And you do wonder to what extent it is an unreported phenomenon and what's happening. And that certainly made me think about that. And yeah, so I thought it was really good. And I think the connection to that, for me, the connection to the crypto profile is pretty strong. But whatever is happening, I'd really recommend it. It was a great film. I would say I'd also recommend your episode on the mechanism, lads. Now, don't blush, but that on the big cats was really well done because it's a difficult topic, lots of different things, and where do you stop? And you guys really covered it well. And funnily enough, I listened to that and then I watched Paul's thing, and it really went together well, because where you sort of stopped, or just about it to start, he started, and so it really went to go. So it was great to see those two things come in the same week, just as from my personal perspective. But yeah, he's done such a good job, Paul Sinclair, and he's really important. And yeah, Yorkshire could be the mecca for all that is weird, wonderful, and maybe the answer in some ways,
The mecca of the mechanism.
Ah, very good.
He's all over it tonight, isn't he? Thanks for your kind comments, Dave. Appreciate that.
Oh no, you're
I just
very
wanted to add
welcome.
as well. I think Paul's left it open as well. I think I've got his books and everything. I think he does some great research. But the Hummingbee incident, for example, is an amazing case, and that wasn't even featured in that film. And again, you were talking about the missing people and all that kind of stuff as well. So there's so much stuff that we know Paul is into and investigates that wasn't even featured in that documentary. So I hope that it spurs him on to release more documentaries and focus on some of those amazing cases in more detail, because the Hummingbee one is phenomenal. Highly recommend. Type it in and go and check it out on Paul's site if you're not aware of it. But it's an insane case. You've got everything from poltergeist activity, UFO landings, military cover-up involvement. You name it, it's all in this one area. So yeah, hopefully some more interesting stuff coming from Paul over the next months and years.
Yeah, definitely. I believe he is starting to record Wolflands 2 as well. Like what's interesting as well, obviously the big focus is on the dogmen, the werewolf type of lore, and a lot of the places in that area, all the forest names and the village names, all Latin or whatever for weird words. I think Hummingbee you mentioned then, like goes back to it's recorded in Doomsday Book in 1086. And that comes back to the meaning of houndsmen and relates to the hunting of wolves in the Yorkshire Wolds. There's quite a few where it all translates into like wolfman or like big dog hound and stuff. It all ties in together that for hundreds of years, this is the place where these things have been seen and been getting reported. And you mentioned missing people. Across the UK, like missing 411 in America, tens of thousands of people go missing like every year in the UK. And a lot of people end up in forests. They end up in forests being found and stuff. And is the connection on that side of it as well? Do we need to do a missing 411 UK version? Is that what Paul could lead to, something like that? Where because in his books, just talk about a lot of missing people, strange disappearances, people disappearing and turning up days later.
Well, having been a former police officer and involved in missing people investigations and having several weird experiences where people have been found myself, which I haven't got time to go into now, it could be a whole episode. Then I would agree with you on that, Ash. Definitely, the cases are out there. These things are happening. They're just not being reported. They're not being picked up on, and no one really knows what to do with them. What do you do when you found someone in a situation? How do you deal with that? There is no one you can call to deal with that. So yeah, I think we are missing a UK 411 equivalent.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is that you have to believe with all the level of them, but people just think. I know people do this, but people en masse go, all right, I've had enough of my common life and just disappear into the sunset. No, and nobody. I mean, I can't believe it's that common. People doing that. I know they do it, but the conceit is, well, they're adults. What can we do? And we just choose to believe that's happening. But when you start to think about it, because I've been thinking about it myself recently, it doesn't really feel as if it's likely, not in that level of frequency anyway, and it's, I think that's brilliant. Missing a British equivalent of that'd be really good. And Paul would be the person to lead it, definitely. I mean, yeah.
Anything to add before we wrap up? Cool. I think going back to your episode ABC, big ABCD, they done a mechanism. The ending of that podcast was the highlight for me. We got a big shout out for Minicon and our Pursuit of the Paranormal. So yeah, cheers, guys. I was driving along. I was like, talking about me, talking about my podcast.
Thoroughly deserve the effort you put into it, and yeah, we're looking forward to it. Forward to coming.
Absolutely, I just echo that. We are huge fans and followers of both the Minicon and Pursuit of the Paranormal. So we're fanboying it up here, joining you. So thanks, guys.
Likewise.
Yeah, I think it's just worth reflecting before we go, but we're in a bit of a calm before the storm. Really, I think it's all going to kick off again. I think people have been so used to having great stuff all the time, but the minute we have a bit of a setback, we think it's the end of the world. And I think it's just going to ramp up from here, and we just sort of a bit be calm. We just need to be patient, really, because it's sort of all happening. And in a way, what is surprising is the pushback has been so rubbish, really, to be honest with you. And so I think there'll be many on the round tables to come. I think we'll be reporting on different things. I don't think it'll be a straight progression. It'll keep exponentially increasing, but I do think we will start to see that progress again. And it's all tied to the Congress. That's the key for me. That's the only key that will unlock the door of secrecy for me.
Amazing. So, as we wrap up, Davey and Ash, do you want to plug your podcast a little bit? Where can we find you guys and what you're called?
I'll let Ash answer that one. He's always better at giving out the podcast details. Before he does that, though, I will just say we've done our last episode was on ABCs. Our next one is going to be on 1, 2, 3s. I'm not going to tell anybody any more than that, but you can start trying to guess and work out what we're doing in terms of 1, 2, 3s. Ash, over to you, mate.
Yeah, so if you did want to check us out, we're on all the main podcast platforms, The Mechanism. If you want to reach out to us on X, I keep calling it Twitter, X, we're at The Mechanism Pod, and you can also email us as well, themechanispod@proton.me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Ash, you've been on before, but thanks for joining us again on the round table. Davey, great first time, and we hope to have you on again soon. Davey, Dave, as always, it's been a pleasure.
It's been great. And can I ask, if people aren't sure about the crypto thing, myself and Greg did a Pursuit of the Paranormal episode a couple of weeks ago, and it sort of goes through it also. If you're not sure about it, you can listen to it there. I only wanted to, not that I just thought people might find it interesting.
That was a really good episode. I can vouch for you, Dave. I think the way you structured it and everything, it was really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to that.
Oh, thanks for
on my dog walk through some scary woods.
Yeah, and thanks a lot. That's really good.
Nice one. Yeah, and Greg, I shall see you later.
All right. Where can you find me? No. Okay. All right.
Oh.
Okay. We've got an episode of a program coming up that we filmed about a week ago, which is coming out in the next week or so, about Delamere Forest and CE5.
Excellent.
Interesting.
More forest connections. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Which also has had a lot of dogmen reports for going back to Roman times. So very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So
looking forward to that.
Don't worry, we'll spam it out. So
nice one. Well, until next month, we shall see what happens in the next few weeks, and we shall see you all later. Have a great evening.
See ya. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
UFO Roundtable. The UFO Thinker and Pursuit of the Paranormal Podcasts.